The stillness of a June morning in Crosse, Wisconsin, was shattered by the echoes of a domestic disturbance, an event that would soon unravel into a complex and troubling series of incidents. What initially appeared to be an isolated act of aggression quickly became a stark reminder of the cyclical nature of addiction and the challenges faced by both individuals struggling with substance abuse and the law enforcement officers tasked with maintaining public safety. At the center of this unfolding drama was Tyler, a 33-year-old man whose actions on June 28, 2024, set off a chain of events that raise urgent questions about rehabilitation, recidivism, and the effectiveness of intervention strategies. Scene 1. The initial disturbance. In the early morning hours, Tyler, reportedly heavily intoxicated, arrived at a residence where he had been temporarily staying. His arrival was anything but quiet. Witness accounts describe an escalating confrontation that began with Tyler attempting to force his way into the house. He allegedly kicked the door with considerable force, demanding entry. Fearing for their safety, the occupants of the home reacted swiftly, using their combined strength to barricade the door from the inside, holding it shut to prevent his forced entry. However, the situation quickly turned more alarming when Tyler reportedly brandished a knife, escalating the tension and heightening the threat level. Fearing imminent violence, those inside wasted no time in calling the authorities for assistance. Scene 2. Police response and the first arrest. Officers from the Crosse Police Department arrived promptly, responding to the emergency call with urgency. Upon arrival, they were met with a scene of chaos. Tyler, still volatile and seemingly out of control, was being physically restrained by one of the residents, held in a headlock in an attempt to subdue his aggression until law enforcement could take over. Even in this physically restrained state, Tyler continued to struggle, resisting arrest with a mix of intoxicated fury and defiance. The officers, recognizing the potential for further violence, acted swiftly, using their combined efforts to take him into custody. Following his arrest, Tyler was booked on multiple misdemeanor charges, including criminal damage to property for the destruction he caused to the door, resisting arrest for his refusal to comply with officers, and disorderly conduct for the disturbance he had caused. In a decision that would later take on even greater significance, Tyler was released later that same day on an $800 cash bond. One of the key conditions of his release was an explicit order prohibiting any contact with the residents of the house, a restriction that, as events would soon reveal, he would not adhere to for long. Scene 3. A brief reprieve, a swift return to trouble, 18 hours later. Tyler's newfound freedom was short-lived. Less than a full day later, just 18 hours after his release, he once again found himself under the scrutiny of law enforcement. This time, it was a different kind of disturbance that put him back on their radar. Dispatch received a report from a concerned citizen about a man urinating on the side of the road. The description given to authorities closely matched Tyler, raising immediate concerns. While public urination might seem like a minor infraction in isolation, the context of his recent arrest and release made the situation far more concerning. Adding to the gravity of the situation was the location of the incident. Tyler had been explicitly ordered to stay away from the residence he had previously tried to enter, yet the area where he was spotted was along a direct route leading back to that very home. Given his demonstrated disregard for previous restrictions, his evident intoxication, and his history of resisting arrest, officers recognized the need for an escalated response. Multiple units were dispatched to locate and assess the situation, prepared for the possibility that Tyler's behavior could once again spiral into confrontation. Scene 4. A defiant encounter on the roadside. Officers discovered Tyler sprawled along the shoulder of the road, clearly inebriated and disoriented. The overpowering scent of alcohol clung to him, and his speech was slurred, indicating a severely diminished capacity. By his own admission, he had trudged an arduous 7 miles from the La Crosse County Jail, a journey that in itself underscored his impaired judgment. Attempting to assess his condition and intentions, the officers questioned him about his whereabouts, his level of intoxication, and his intended destination. Tyler's responses were evasive, often laced with belligerence and sarcasm. He openly admitted to consuming alcohol, a blatant violation of the conditions of his release, and remained undeterred in his determination to return to the residence, flouting the no-contact order in place against him. His dismissive attitude toward the officers' warnings revealed an unyielding defiance, forcing them to weigh their options carefully. Scene 5. A pattern of self-destruction. For the officers involved, this was not a singular occurrence. Tyler was a familiar face. His repeated run-ins with law enforcement painted a clear pattern of reckless behavior and self-destruction. His history was marred by alcohol abuse, impulsive decisions, and legal infractions. The officers recalled past incidents that further solidified his troubling trajectory, including a hit-and-run accident and an occasion when he was found passed out on a stranger's porch in a drunken stupor. These instances formed a grim portrait of a man caught in a relentless cycle of self-inflicted adversity, seemingly unable or unwilling to alter his course. Frustration simmered among the officers as they reflected on the inadequacies of the system in preventing repeat offenses. Time and again, Tyler found himself ensnared in the same patterns, raising concerns about the effectiveness of current interventions in addressing recidivism and addiction. Scene 6. The inevitable arrest. Despite the officers' repeated attempts to reason with Tyler, offering him assistance and emphasizing the legal ramifications of violating his release conditions, he remained resolute in his defiance. His disregard for the no-contact order left law enforcement with no alternative. When he defiantly stepped onto the prohibited property once more, officers had no choice but to take action.
Get on the ground. You're under arrest. Get on the ground.
On the ground now.
Why? Get on the ground. Get on your knees.
Why?
Get on.
Put your hands behind your back.
Dude, what did I do?
You're under arrest for bail jumping.
Why? You can't step foot on the property.
I can't.
Well, you were told that several times. Made it very clear to you. 718, we're 95.
I don't know. We gave you every option in the book, Tyler.
He was promptly arrested for bail jumping, his unrelenting resistance sealing his fate. Along with the charges he faced earlier that day, he was also charged with misdemeanor bail jumping and initially received a $300 cash bond. However, it was later changed to a $500 signature bond, reflecting a shift in the court's handling of his case. The arrest was not a matter of punitive action alone. It was an attempt to enforce the legal boundaries meant to prevent further harm to himself and others. Scene 7. A troubling discovery. Yet the night's complications did not end with his arrest. During the booking process, officers made an unsettling discovery: an air rifle in Tyler's truck. Given his status as a convicted felon, the presence of what initially appeared to be a firearm was cause for immediate concern. Upon closer inspection, the weapon was identified as an air rifle rather than a traditional firearm. Although this distinction alleviated some of the initial alarm, it still raised questions about his intent and judgment. The presence of the air rifle added yet another layer of complexity to an already troubling situation, further illustrating Tyler's pattern of risky decision-making and disregard for legal constraints. Scene 8. Lingering questions and systemic issues. Tyler's case highlights a broader systemic issue within the criminal justice system. His struggles with addiction, defiance of authority, and repeated offenses reflect a cycle of recidivism that punitive measures fail to break. How can individuals like Tyler receive support that prioritizes treatment over incarceration? What role should law enforcement play in rehabilitation? The current system perpetuates an endless loop of arrest, release, and reoffense, underscoring the urgent need for comprehensive solutions that address the root causes of addiction and provide sustainable paths to recovery. Scene 9. A repeating cycle. Tyler's troubles didn't end with his June 28th arrest. Just a month later, he was back in police custody, facing similar charges: resisting arrest, disorderly conduct, and criminal damage to property. Likely another alcohol-related incident, his repeated run-ins with the law underscore the deep hold of addiction and the failure of the legal system to provide lasting solutions. For repeat offenders like Tyler, punishment alone does little to break the cycle, leaving them trapped in an endless loop of arrest and release with no clear path to recovery. Scene 10. A call for reform and action. Tyler's case highlights the urgent need for systemic reform. Punitive measures alone fail to address addiction, which requires treatment, mental health support, and community resources for lasting recovery. Without these interventions, individuals like Tyler remain stuck in a cycle of self-destruction, endangering themselves and society. His story calls on policymakers, law enforcement, and communities to rethink their approach, prioritizing rehabilitation over punishment to break the cycle of recidivism and drive meaningful change.